The bids are in. The gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine auctions, wine retail, and just wine. My name is Jeff McGurn. I am on the marketing team here at WineBid. With me, as always, is our wine expert, Paul, the trustee of Trebbiano Walker. He is my compatriot here, and I look to him. I look to him for wine. He's my Obi-Wan Kenobi of wine, or my Obi-Wine Kenobi.
Jeez.
So Disney, please.
You're starting out hot with these puns.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes. I'm going to start calling you Obi-Wan Kenobi. Paul, yes. If I ever make a bad decision about wine, it's because of Paul. He guides me.
A lot of people could say that, actually. So that is the first true thing you've said.
Yes, it is. So, Paul really begged me to start off with Bordeaux this week because we're going to be talking about France.
Soccer, just starting out with Bordeaux again.
Well, that's what you wanted, Paul. So we're going to be starting off with France this week. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that is coming to auction this week in France and for the rest of the world. Keep in mind, everything we're going to mention today, you can go on WineBid, you can bid on, and you can potentially buy this week for our auction ending on this Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, and here's
this Sunday is March 31st, by the way.
March 31st is Sunday,
clarify.
Last day of March of
2024.
Now, here's the other thing. Everything we talk about here, we're going to put in our blog, right? So you'll be able to see all of this stuff on WineBid. So you don't have to write everything down unless you want to.
Yeah, typically too that our teams put together a hero, which we it's sort of a nickname within the company for us. Basically like a whole display of some of the wines that we've picked, and then it's a link to all the wines that are from our respective picks. Now, we always see, we see a lot of interesting things each week. We don't have nearly the amount of time that we'd like to mention all the different picks that we have, but those are contained within a link from the homepage, I believe, each week. And if it's not listed on the blog or on the homepage spread, it will probably be one or the other. So we can confirm that. But anyway,
yeah, we'll confirm it. So let's go ahead and start off with the area that Paul really wanted us to start off with, Bordeaux.
Yeah, I love Bordeaux. It's just I just give you a hard time because you always start with Bordeaux.
Always start with Bordeaux. Well, it's at the top of my that's just how I organize it. I just have Bordeaux at the top, so I start there.
I'm surprised you don't have Cru Beaujolais since you always talk about it, and there is Beaujolais.
No, I don't have Cru Beaujolais in there because I like Cru Beaujolais, and I don't want people to bid.
Okay, that's why.
I don't want the word to get out. Cru Beaujolais is delicious, and it's all I always look at Cru Beaujolais. I'm like, $20. Is this not good wine? And then I look, I'm like, no, it's actually good stuff. So I'm all about. Anyway, forget Cru Beaujolais. It's not good. Don't buy it. I'll buy it. I'll get it and dispose of it for everyone. So there's a ton of first growths that came into auction this week. A ton of Lafite. From the 80s and some from the 90s and 2000s. There's a ton of Mouton that came into auction. I just had to mention all that stuff. I thought it was really cool to see this 98 mag of Lieuville Las Casses. There were two of them for $280. I actually thought that was not a bad deal for.
Yeah. No, that's funny you mentioned because I think this is still the era where, Parker scores were really sort of
Parker was you could get anything below a 94 from Parker.
Yeah, and then it's just gonna kill it secondary market. I hate to say that, but it seems kind of true. And I don't know if you looked up tasting notes on that wine from Cellar Tracker.
I did. Of course I did.
Yeah, of course you did. But still, you're right. That stuck out to me right away as a great deal. Yeah, $280 for the 98 mag.
It is. And so we always talk about this, you'll look at something like the 90s or the 80s and you'll see a Robert Parker score. It's 87 or, whatever.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. It's 93. I think this was 93 right? From Parker. Yeah.
Nowadays, I feel this on a scale, Robert Parker, how do you like this wine on a scale of 98 to 99, right? That's everything's right up there, right? So anyway, my only point is this is I see these things and I'll see the critics score a 90 or 92 or 93. And then I go look at the tasting notes and people are like, oh my God, this wine is smoking right now. And look, if just one person says that, that's one thing. But if I look at the last 10 tasting notes and everybody's like, this stuff is so good. It's in the perfect one. Then I'd start to feel a little bit more comfortable with taking a shot.
Yeah, you've got to do a little homework and read into it and see, what a lot of people are talking about. And
my research.
You might also have like people that you follow on Seller Tracker that seem to know what they're talking about. And so if you trust their opinions, it's a good gauge to go by.
There are definitely people who I'm like, I feel like they're like overly effusive. And I'm like, okay, you just like everything, right? Speaking of mags, I thought this was cool. 2017 mag, or mag of 2017 Igrek. There were 2 bottles of Igrek.
That too. Yeah, I picked that as well. And the 17 mag was $300. Not terrible. That wine's probably tastes delicious now, will also probably last a long, long time. So yeah, it's a collectible wine and it's not insanely priced.
And we've got a 750 of the 16, which I thought was cool. So this was kind of interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this. So we have 7 bottles of the 09 Pontic Canet for 210. We've got the 05 for 155. We've got the 2010 for 230. I thought it was interesting to see the 05, and I think this is primarily based off of the scores, to see 05 so much less than the 09 and the 2010.
Yeah, it's all scores. It's all scores.
It's like all scores, because 05 is it's like an epic vintage. This 2000, and by the way, I think one of the themes this week, there's a ton of cool 2005 and 2010 Bordeaux, like a ton of really great 2005 and 10 Bordeaux.
Yeah.
2010 La Maison Aubryon for 460. I'm really curious to see where that one ends up and to see that, is that going to go, are we going to see that go up? We can see that go down. Because that was, look, you look back at 2022, that one got up to 525. It's come down just a little bit. I want to see where that really ends up, right? Because it's been sort of around that area. Are we going to see it stick at about 460? 05.
It's got that kind of parallel to some of the first growths or super seconds or right bank stars that get really, really high scores. Looking at that price makes me imagine it got 100 points from somebody. So I'm not looking at it on the auction right now, but anyway, I feel
like La Maison Aubryon is like a darling wine of collectors now. Like people love La Maison Aubryon.
Yeah, it's great. It can taste and effectively be better than its sort of first growth counterparts for various different vintages. And obviously there were like legendary vintages like 75, which are still amazing and obviously command a bunch of money, but yeah, it's phenomenally good wine. Okay, yeah, I got 100 from Advocate and 100 from Suckling, so
two hundos. 05 Montrose, I got 4 of those at 170. I
see that's another one where I'm like, okay, that wine is so score dependent because the 05 got reasonably good scores. It got 96s from Suckling and Advocate, so there you go. It's not, not an amazing score. Okay, this is interesting too, because I see that there's Advocate and Parker listings, which would lead me to believe that the Advocate scores from after Parker stopped rating wines, which I believe was in 2014. So it was re-rated later. I think I'll look this up and add the date on the site so people know. But anyway, but yeah, it's one of those things, right? Where I let's see, before you continue, I just wanted to mention.
No, I'm not going to continue. I want to say that like this wine is one of those ones where I feel like it gets a moderate score from Advocate and Parker and stuff. Yeah. And then I go and look at the taste.
Price is reflected, right?
And it's not, the price is reflected that, but I go look at the most recent 20 tasting notes and everybody's like, this is amazing. This is the wine of the night. I tasted this against this other thing and it beat up like crazy. Like everyone.
Well, yeah, there's it kind of like there's no reason it shouldn't be up near where the 09 is, because 09 is at 250 equally. Well, who knows if it's equally, but very, very good vintage as well. But the 05, just looking at it, is a much better deal.
It's a much better deal. Better deal. It's you're talking $80 off, right? Like it's like 30% discount, 35% discount off of this one. I'm thinking about buying that wine myself. One of those. There's 4 of them, right? So
You see the 08s in there too for 115.
It's crazy to me. Look,
Yeah.
I love Maros. I had to and Maros goes the distance. I got a bottle for a buddy's birthday. It was like a 78. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great. Great wine.
40-year-old bottle.
Great wine. Yeah.
It's a great wine. And I don't know, but look, everyone, all of you people listening, please continue to discount it because somebody said it was 94, points back, I don't know how many years ago, back in 07. I'll continue to pick it up. Speaking of 05 Pichon Baron, right? 150.
Yeah.
3 of those. Here's another one where it's like the tasting notes are absolutely effusive about it. If you look at the most recent, 20 tasting notes from the last 12 months. Everyone's like, phenomenal. It's so good. 96 Calon Segur. We have 3 of those, 120. I thought that was a pretty decent deal. And, this one we always talk about, although I think the word is getting out, right? Because it's got a bid, the mag of 89 Groad Larose.
Yeah. That was another one I flagged because it's not crazy price either.
No, 270 for a second growth Bordeaux from 89, right? Already has a bid taking it up to 280. So there are 2 mags of this. One of them actually doesn't have a bid, so you can still get one at 270. There's some 750s at 135, one with a bid, and then a 2010 mag for 170.
That's a steal. That's a
steal and a half. $170 for a second growth Bordeaux from 2010. Come on. That's why I said, to me, as I was looking through the Bordeaux this week, it was like so many 05s and 2010 great vintages. Right. That were very reasonably priced.
Yeah, I kind of focused on that. I focused on finding large formats that I thought were great deals. And then, some standouts from great vintages. And then otherwise, like what I consider to be sort of value wines. And, there were a lot. There was like Alter Ego, the second label of Palmer.
A lot of the prices, some Alter Ego.
Prices going up, obviously, but the 09 was 95. I didn't think it was terrible. The 12 Magnum for 160. There's 10 Cantenac Brown Magnum for 150. It's a lot of things.
I got that Cantenac Brown Magnum as well, right? What about this 05 Brener de Cru for 75 of 12 of those, like an entire case of that, and we get the 18 for $60.
Yeah, and did you see also there's the second label, the Duluc de Bruner de Cru. There's a Magnum of the 2000 for $80, and there's a 6-liter of 2000 for $320. So
05 Clerc Milan for $100, the 09 Brain Cantenac for 90. We have the 2010 for 90 as well. Just like a ton of great deals on everyone's like, you can't get a good deal on Bordeaux. I'm like, shenanigans. There's phenomenal wine at very
all price points. Yeah. And even in Sauternes too, there's a 2001 half bottle of Chateau d'Arche for $22.
Yes.
It's a legendary vintage, the best I think in the last, 30 years, incredibly great vintage, and it's already got some great time on it. Half bottle for $22. That's a steal.
Let's drive on down to Burgundy, shall we?
Sure.
I'm going to throw out a few. I thought there was some interesting stuff. 2020 La Flave, Pouligny, Montrachet, Clavillon for $355. We've got 2 of those. I didn't think that was terrible. 11 Pierre-Eve, Colin Mouret, Corton Charlemagne for $510. This 02 Louis Latour Corton Grancy 3-liter OWC for $340. I mean, 02, it's a great vintage.
I didn't see that.
And the last tasting note is from somebody who consumed it at a restaurant that you and I have been to drink wine at.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nice Chinese restaurants.
No kidding.
Yes, one and the same. Great restaurant with a phenomenal wine list.
That's true.
Really, really good wine list. So you can, if somebody wants to go find the Cellar Tracker review and find that restaurant, I highly recommend going there. Great, amazing food too. 2014 Louis Latour Corton Charlemagne for $160. Had 4 of those. I actually thought that wasn't a bad deal. 160 for Corton Charlemagne from 14. I mean, call me
not bad. I mean, it's not in the same realm as
it's not in the same realm, but it's Corton Charlemagne.
Yeah, it's good wine.
This 05 Ghislaine Barteau.
Yeah, there's a ton of Guillain Barteau in this week. Well, when I say ton, I mean 12 bottles.
That's a ton of Guillain Barteau. But this one has a bid on it, taking 175 to 185. We've got the 2010 for 250. And then this 2020 Bernard Bonin Bourgogne Blanc, initials BB. We have 2 of those. One has a bid for, and they're at 230.
Yeah, it's funny. That's a producer that's just gotten a ton of press and the prices kind of went through the roof. But yeah, 230 for Bourgogne Blanc is I mean, I don't know. I think you can get Meursault from the same vintage from the same producer, Bernard Bonin, the Laitier, for 320, and so another $100, but that's kind of a tough choice. I put them both down on my list because I'm like, okay, 230 is a lot to get into a producer at the Bourgogne Blanc level, but those wines are quite rare, and everybody wants them, and so I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see $100 difference between a Premier Cru Meursault and a Bourgogne Blanc, but anyway, it's up for you to decide what you want to try, but. Yeah, I was impressed by all the Guillain Barteau in this week, and great vintages too. There's 05, there's 10, there's 15, 14, 17, all kinds of stuff. Multiple kind of like a mini vertical of Lake Croix from Chameau-Vizigny. And then a lot of Collamoret wines in, a bunch of Saint-Aubin. We always talk about how they perform in auction. They're all going for over $100, and now it looks like every single Saint-Aubin except for the Village 2020, which is at $90. All the others are over $100. So, but then Meursault Charmes 19 is $300, and like you mentioned, the 11 Corton Charlemagne is at $510. So. Yeah, there's a lot of interest. Oh no, excuse me. There is a 16 Saint-Aubin, the Cuvée Marguerite, that's currently got a bid at 96, so it's rapidly approaching.
I feel like I've always felt in the past like there's value in Saint-Aubin that like it's kind of under the radar, but I feel maybe not so much anymore.
You just got to stay away from the super hot names. That's the thing. You got to do your own kind of poking around. If you find a producer that you like, hopefully not the rest of the world will catch on to it.
I know, right?
They're still deal. They're just producers that are not as well respected or highly rated, I guess.
Let's head over to Alsace, right? We've got 95 Zin Umbrecht.
I knew you were going
to. There's like 6 new bottles.
No, that's true. There's a nice little batch of Zin Umbrechts in this.
8 new bottles, of which 7 are Zin Umbrecht. So I don't know what you want from me, Paul. I knew you were going to do that. Yeah, because that's all there is coming. So it's a bunch of cool Zin Umbrecht. And I haven't said this in a while, but I'll say I said it before. I'll say it again. I'm always impressed with just the value in Alsace. That like 95s for $45 or even 95. Like this is phenomenal wine. It's complex, beautiful, and it's just like it's very reasonably priced even for the age stuff. I thought it was cool to see this 98 Chaffet Tokay Pinot Gris. Claus Saint Theobald, Rangen d'Etan, single grain Noble SGN. Yeah.
Let me see it. I got to look this up because I didn't see that.
$70 for 500 milliliter from 98. I'll bet you that one is just lovely right now. I thought that was
well, that's Rangen. That's where you want to be. But yeah, that's not too bad. $70. Yeah, but that's delicious. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Nothing to discuss in Beaujolais. Let's go to Champagne.
You got to mention those Dutreuil wines. This stuff's great. I mean, the prices too are going up on those, I have to say. And I did pick out the 15. Yeah, 15 Dutreuil Fleury Cuvée Vieille Vigne Le Clos it's got a bid at 41, but delicious wines. 15 is kind of a rich vintage. So
there's also some Foillard in auction.
Is there a new Foillard this week? I didn't.
There is. There's a 14 Morgan Les Charmes eponym. So I mean, there's some Lepalau. There's some cool stuff in auction this week from Beaujolais. And then Champagne had some interesting stuff. Did you see this?
Yeah.
2020 Cedric Bouchard, Roses Dijon, Brut Cote de...
Well, that's the Velvet Land. That's sort of like the second label, which used to be $60, but
now it's 170. We have 6 of them at 170.
That's good. I sometimes I think, you could do a little bit better. I don't know. There's another bottle of Savar in this week, but it looks like it's already got a couple bids on it for $62 for the Louverture, which, I don't know. I mean, Valvolin's really good. It's still Cedric Bouchard's great wine, but yeah, that is a lot.
That's a lot. This multi-vintage Elie Ore extra brut Grand Cru for 90, and then we've got the Premier Cru for 92. And I always think it's kind of funny to see like the Premier Cru and the Grand Cru are the exact same price.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
Yeah, except for the vintage. There's a 13 single vintage wine is $600 because.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, then there's that. Then there's the single vintage Aurier. This 09 Paul Roger Sir Winston Churchill mag for $550.
Yeah, this is like a wine I want you to stop mentioning because it's not going to be a good deal for long.
That's why I keep mentioning it, because
it's so good. There's 04 also 280, 06 260, and there's a couple bottles of each. So
yeah, there's 06, 04, 06, 12, and 13s of the Paul.
It's just amazing wine, like really, really good. And when we're talking about grower champagnes that are $600, I think these Winston, it's a completely different style. So it's very subjective. But
have I told you my theory as to why this wine will continue to be a good value, regardless of how many times we mention it? I have a whole theory.
I think you may have mentioned this, and I may have forgotten it. But yes,
you probably forgot it because it was so mind blowing. But okay, because obviously I'm a marketing. Right. And so my theory is that because it's like Sir Winston Churchill and it's an anglicized name that like, British name, that people don't like, people discount it.
Not the British.
Not the British.
They drink more Paul Roger than the French do. Come on.
But I think you see Americans go like, well, Sir Winston Churchill, Champagne.
Another generation, I would say, very well respected in the U.S. But
for anybody who really knows Champagne, like anybody's going to, respect that. But I don't know. I just feel like it gets discounted. And I think that could be the reason. It's certainly not the quality. Right. The quality is fantastic. So
yeah, no, who knows? Interesting theory. I don't know if I buy it, but anyway.
18 Jérôme Provost Extra Brut La Clossier I can't even say that. You're gonna have to.
Yeah. So this is the 100% Pinot Meunier vineyard. Le Béguin.
I like Pinot Meunier. I know you're a Blanc de Blanc kind of guy.
This was actually one of my favorite wines. Period. Actually, when I remember tasting, I was looking up notes from like 10 years ago, and again, it's like people hate to hear this, but you could buy this wine all day for $80, which is true. And in France, it was even cheaper. But no, not anymore. But it's excellent stuff. I've always really had a soft spot for Provaux because it's really, really good. But yeah, there's multiple labels, but I think this is sort of the most known, the 100% Pinot Meunier. Yeah, but phenomenally great wine.
I'll just mention a couple of others. This non-vintage François Seconde, Cotat, Champenois, Celery Rouge. For $35. I thought that
one we're going to have to make sure we have a link to, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's this red one.
It's Côte Champenois. That's a dry or a still red wine.
Yeah. And then this 2015 Romaine. Is it
Pinot Noir or is it Pinot Meunier? What is it? It's Pinot Noir, probably.
I think it's Pinot Noir. 15 Romaine Henin Extra Brut.
Yeah, this one I'd never heard of before. Henin Roman una L'Appel de la Forêt. Yeah, I don't know this wine. It's expensive, $200.
$200.
A couple bottles of it. Must be micro production stuff.
It's got to be super small production. This is not something we've sold before, but super interesting. Let's jump over to Jura really quickly, okay? We've got
Okay.
Multi-vintage Ganavat for
Yeah, there's one of the very scandalous labels in this week.
yes, scandalous label. Do not.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Not for children. Nobody under 21 is allowed to look at this.
J'en veux encore. Yeah, this is like, well, you can imagine what that is referring to. But anyway, yeah, that's an interesting one. I did see it. And it's also relatively inexpensive as Ganavat goes. 50,
yes. There's this Tissot Trousseau. We got 2 bottles of that, which already has bids taking it from 40 to 52.
Tissot. Did you say Tissot?
Tissot Trousseau.
Tissot Trousseau. Yeah. Okay.
More M4.
Oh, right. The M4 wine. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
07 Domaine de Montbourgau, L'Etoile. Vin de Paille.
Yeah, this is cool. This is interesting because it's like Vin de Paille, so it's late harvest dessert wine, or no, this is actually fortified, I believe. But yeah, I saw that bottle and I was like, oh, that looks cool. It's an interesting bottle shape too. Very
pain to store in some cellars.
Oh, pain to store. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the last one I'll mention is we've got this 2019 L'Abbaye Côte de Jura.
Yeah, there's a bunch of L'Abbaye wines in actually. Yeah,
120 a bottle. So
there's Cremant too. Did you see that? There's L'Abbaye Cremant de Jura.
I did see that. I can't. Which mentioned. I kind of want to buy that.
Yeah, well, it's a lot less than the Chardonnay, right?
Wasn't it like $45?
Yeah, it's got a bid at. Well, I had a bid at 41 earlier. Maybe it's already up.
Okay, maybe it's like 41. I was looking at that, going like, I'd really love to grab that L'Abbaye.
Yeah, because all the Chardonnay is quite expensive. They're all about over $100.
The L'Abbaye Before we wrap this up, I want let's run around the world really quickly. Okay, I want to talk about, we got some Slovenian wine in this week.
Yes, and so this is part of the reason I wanted to mention this week. We like to try and talk about things from all different parts of the world. We never get enough time, of course. Each week there's all these new wines coming in. But this week, which we do see this wine on occasion, it's the Movia Puro, I don't know how you pronounce it in Slovenian. But anyway, it's very cool because you can disgorge it at home. It's not a disgorged wine. So there's YouTube videos on how you can do this. But yeah, this stuff's great. I actually had it at a restaurant once and they brought a bucket out and disgorged it by the table.
It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you're like, you get deconstructed nachos and you're like, wait a second, why am I paying more when I have to put the nachos together myself? Right? Yeah,
but it's celebratory. It's like, in addition to savoring the bottle, you can savor it and disgorge it at the same time. So, how often do you get to do that?
I actually am thinking about grabbing one of these because I actually do think this is pretty cool and I'd love to see what.
Yeah, it's
but they're not expensive.
No, it's great. It's great stuff.
And the tasting notes make it sound pretty darn good too. So I'm digging what I'm seeing in the tasting notes on this Slovenian wine. South Africa, we've got this 2011 Tokara Director's Reserve for $20. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then Canada, usually it's all ice wine from Canada.
No, Osoyoos is great. I'm glad you mentioned this. I love this stuff. And they've had a hell of a time up there too. The last couple of vintages have been disastrous. But yeah, there's 14 and 17 of the Grand Vin, and then there's 18 Pétales de Osoyoos, which I think is the second label. And they're not expensive. And this stuff is really, really good. If you haven't had it before, it's very good.
I have not, but I kind of want to grab some of it.
It's good.
It looks super interesting. So yeah, try out this Osoyoos. And then, there's a smattering of this. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
Yeah, there are a couple things from Italy that we don't see all the time. There's a couple Magnas of Occhipinti wines, the SP68 and the Il Frappato. They're all large formats, which is kind of cool because we don't see those very often. There's a couple interesting wines. There's a René Renou Bunzo Tree de Vendage from down in southern Rhone. 500 ml for $21 I thought was kind of interesting. And yeah, those were kind of the ones that stood out. There's an Irancy, which we don't see that often. Thierry Richoux Irancy from 2015. Inexpensive as well. There's the Baron Philippe de Rothschild Chilean wine, the Escudo Rojo Baronesa P.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other, international pick I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, a lot of neat things in this week for sure.
A lot of cool stuff in auction. You can go to winebid.com, find the bottle. You listen to us and decipher what we're saying. Find the bottles yourself, bid right now. Or you can go to our go to winebid.com and look at our blog and our page. It has all of our picks. So then you can just click into them and see everything we were talking about. The other thing I'll mention before we wrap up is that you can get $15 in wine bid, well, $15 off of a $150 purchase, right? If you use the code TRUSTEE, because Paul's the trustee of Trebbiano. It's $15 off 150 for this week's auction only. Okay. So if you plan on bidding on something, it's a great way to get a nice little discount for you there. And with wine bids finally hammered, this has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.